Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. This is episode 277. By gosh, how time flies. Each and every week, I sit down here and I answer your questions. If you have questions, because this is a question and answer podcast, please send them to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room or the scar on my face. Had a little incident. I was watching football, and I made a light dinner, scrambled eggs and vegetable soup. Man, not bad. And went to bed. 8 hours later, after I ate, I woke up very ill. I stood up after trying to throw up, and then passed out and fell forward and hit my face. I've seen Mike, who's my great physical therapist, got my neck to move again. My skin doctor doesn't have really good news. He says I'll need a little plastic surgery, or I'll probably just ignore it. But I'm fine. The funny thing about the whole story is about a day or so after this event, we got a notification that the eggs that we bought from this warehouse store were contaminated with salmonella. So I had salmonella poisoning. So there's a moral to the story here. I just don't know what it is, but I've lost my taste for eggs for a little while. Sadly, this happened very closely to the anniversary of Tiffany's death, who of course died in a fall, and it makes it broke my heart to think afterwards what this could have done to my poor daughters. So I'm fine. I look a little worse, but you know, what's comparatively, I'm no cover model, okay? So let's answer some questions and let's forget about my little scar, okay? We've got a question from Christopher, and it's a good question, and it's real simple. He's age 60, and he's gonna have a second total hip replacements four months from now, and he would just like some advice. Now, if you are a listener, you would know that I was born with a condition called pistol grip hips. And according to my surgeon, I was going to get total hip replacements on both hips, basically the moment I was born. And so I feel I'm not an expert on total hip replacements, but I sure know how to prep for them. So let me give you some pieces of advice. First, Christopher, do your best to get in the best condition you can. Now listen, I was oatmeal on my first one, and it was hard for me to do anything, but I discovered that for me, I could train on machines pretty well, and swimming was my friend. Later on, I used to do this thing we used to jokingly call the Dan John Triathlon. I would do laps in a pool. I found this a exercise bicycle I could do that didn't hurt my hip. And then I would walk, not very well, but I found a treadmill where I could do basically kind of a dip movement and take a lot of load off that leg. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun. Do your best to get in any kind of condition. On the nutritional side, for fat loss, I have found that fasting is like cheating. I have Brad Pillen's books here. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting and all of its variations. If you can't get the cardiovascular work going on, you know, we all know that fat loss happens in the kitchen. I'm starting to think that fat loss happens on fasting, even easier. So big picture stuff, get in the best shape you can. Use a good toolkit on the nutrition side. I like fasting. I like protein and vegetables. I like water. I like fermented foods. On exercise, do what you can. And then finally, as the date approaches for surgery, and this advice I give to everyone for surgeries, and very few people take it, and then I find out later on, but with total hip replacement, you really, really want to take this serious. 4 or 5 days out, I would suggest really starting to take, I use orange flavored, sugar-free Metamucil. Certainly at least take what they recommend. I mean, if you're me, you'll add more. But one of the issues that you're gonna have with the THR, with the kind of drugs they give you to keep the pain away, there is a problem with constipation. Now, the other problem with constipation is the location of the surgery. Literally, it's a very tight area down there. You're gonna have inflammation from the surgery, from the incisions, from the Like my doctor told me, it's not surgery, it's carpentry, which I thought was hilarious. And if you do have any constipation, it's just going to exacerbate the problems down there. As soon as you can, as soon as you're cleared, whatever walking you can get in, whether it's with a walker, with crutches, with a cane. I found the more I walked, the better I felt every time. Pay close attention to what the therapists tell you about going up and down stairs for a while. Stairs, take them very seriously. While you're getting surgery or even the days before, prep your home so that if you're in a situation you have to deal with stairs, get things away from stairs, try to find ways that you can really minimize going up and down for the first few days. I prepped myself both times with it's interesting. I'm going to say DVDs, and I still think that there's value to that. But, Indiana Jones, the trilogy, the first three, great shows. Godfather 1, Godfather 2, movies that are kind of more like epic, that'll keep you interested. And don't forget, you're going to fall asleep. So don't watch anything that you might, I always fall asleep with the little painkillers, but have films that you kind of already know. So if you wake up, you're not lost. Nothing too deep, stay away from those, those psychological thrillers, have fun. I would prepare myself with whatever you can stay comfortable. I found layering was much better for me than trying to, your dignity goes with certain surgeries, and there's certain parts of what you're about to go through that is just difficult, okay? And I'm just being candid with you, but do your best. I really think you need someone with you for the first few days, and I know that they're going to tell you that with the surgeons, part of their checkup, they're going to say that. I think it's really important that you have someone with you. I did lose a friend the day after a surgery. He was supposed to have someone with him, and he did not. Something happened. He got hurt and passed away. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I just want you to think through. Get yourself in the best condition you can. Take care as much as you can before you leave. Make sure the house, or your apartment, whatever, is set for you for at least a while to be a comfortable place for you to rehab and recover. The Metamucil, I would say you got to, but there are people who don't believe me, and then they suffer on the other end. And then try to watch some films or shows that you enjoy. I know with these new streaming services is a lot more fun, but I did like using the DVDs, because then I can't just keep finding something more interesting. That you watch a show for about a minute, then you change it to something else, because that's what I do normally, and I got to quit doing that. Christopher, I hope that helped. Okay, that's and let me know how it goes. Okay, I'm really interested, and good luck to you. We have a question from Ben, and Ben asks a question that goes back to some podcasts we had in the back in the past. He said this: in a previous podcast when discussing building a home gym, you state that a suspension trainer, a 24-kilo bell, and an ab wheel are about all you really need. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. He moved recently and brought his 24-kilo bell, nice one, suspension trainer, ab wheel, and he's ready to go. I know in the past you said that most people don't get the full benefits out of their single bell. If I can press the 24 bell for 15 reps, 15 repetitions with my non-dominant arm, how much further can I go with the bell before I should start thinking about a heavier one? And then he makes a note that his wallet and his wife would be glad if I gave him a good answer about not buying a bigger bell. Clearly now, Ben, if you can press the 24 for 15, you're ready for a bigger bell. Having said that, I'm coming out with a supplement to the Armor Building Formula, and I answer this question quite a bit online, but I would like to talk about some variations you can do. So using the same 24-kilo bell, you can make it heavier. So for me, when I talk about easy strength with kettlebells, and all you have is a 24, on your easy day, I have people do the floor press. And so I came up with this little system. So for me, what's the old joke we used to use in the RKC? This is my strong arm, this is my stronger arm. I like that, but the less dominant's fine. I'm just imagining, I go through this list, you're using your left hand for everything. It'll make sense in a moment. So you can do floor press. You can do standing with both feet on the ground, press with the 24. Now, you already told me that's for 15. Well, let's go to half kneeling with the left knee down, bell still in the left hand. Okay, you still get 14. All right, go to the half kneeling with the right knee down, still in the left hand. Press standing with the right foot, press standing with only the right foot on the ground, you pick up your left foot. Standing press with only your left foot on the ground and your right foot in the air. You could do the waiter's press. This isn't perfect, but I'll make it happen. Pretend it's a kettlebell. The waiter's press is when you hold the globe or the ball like this and press like this. You can do the waiter's press. You can do the waiter's press standing on just the right foot. You can do the waiter's press just standing on the left foot. And then there's that great exercise called the bottoms up press. And you hold it by the handle and the load is vertical. You know, I was thinking about your strength levels. You can do bottom up presses there. You can do bottom up presses while standing on the right foot only. You can do bottom presses while staying on the left foot only. If you can do 15 reps with both hands, staying on one foot with the 24, if an atomic bomb hits your neighborhood, the one thing that still will be around is your shoulders, man. Because if you can do bottoms up presses for 15 reps with the 24, your shoulders are locked and loaded, man. You are bulletproof. You are anti-fragile, whatever, you're resilient, whatever phrase we want to use. That would be an impressive thing to do. Remember, 24 kilo bell, 15 reps, bottoms up, 1 foot in the air. And then do both sides. So that's a real simple way. Those are just some ideas that you can make a bell heavier without adding any weight to it. That's one of my favorite things about kettlebells, is that you can play around with its design to make things harder or easier. Great question. I would still start thinking about, maybe getting a part-time job, so you can buy some bigger bells with your strength levels, but I think you're doing great, okay? Thank you. Now, our next question is from Michael, and it's a good question. I've answered it basically before, but it comes down to one big thing. Sometimes programs do this, and you can't work around them. Let's get to Michael's question. I purchased a copy of your book, Mass Made Simple, and I am quite intimidated by what are about a squatting strength, heavy squats, and high rep sets and all that. I don't have access to a squat rack in my home gym. I have barbells and bench with weight up to 95 kilos, kettlebells 32K, 2 doubles 24K, and 2 doubles with 2 doubles. Double kettlebells at 24 and double at 18, and a pull-up bar. So my question has 2 parts. What squat strength standard would you recommend before starting Mass Made Simple? Well, first off, Michael and all of our listeners, the first 2 workouts are these tested workouts where you do a lot of reps with 95 pounds, and the recommendation I'm going to give you in just a moment, even less than that. It is hard. I mean, it was always interesting when people who were in pretty good shape would do that workout. At the top of my head, I think it's 95 pound squat, 95 pound, but you do 30 reps with it. Well, that's not much, but I got to tell you, man, 30 reps of anything is a long ways to go. And a lot of people told me it's the sorest they've ever been. Now, you don't give us your weight, and that's okay. But the follow-up on this first question is, should I just start on the lower weight outline for people between 135 and 185 and see how it goes? You gave me no information on your body weight, but since you have such trepidation, why don't you look at the 135 pound numbers and just stick with that for the 6 weeks and see how that goes. I think one of the workouts, if you're under 135, is just with the straight bar, which helps you with your second question. If you don't have a squat rack, it's going to be really hard to do the program. But is there a gym close by you can use? You could do most of the stuff at home by yourself, and then use the gym for the squat rack. Just spitballing here. The second question, is the program best done with access to a squat rack? Yes. When lifting solo, or should the program be manageable at a home gym with no rack? Well, I mean, I certainly can clean, I can certainly clean 225 and then get it up on my back, but then to do 50 squats with it, I was thinking back in the last time I did the 225, I decided to do 51 reps with it, just to break, my lifetime record. It didn't mean anything. But I didn't rack it. Since I had bumper plates and we had a good floor, I just tossed it off my back, just dropped it, and then felt terrible for days. Because 51 reps with 225 sucks. Yeah, you need a squat rack. I just don't know how you're going to do those high reps, especially. You might be able to get the first 2 or 3 sets, but how are you going to go from there? My thought for you is you can do much of the workouts in your home gym, and maybe just get yourself a short-term gym membership at a place that has a squat rack. You'll be in and out, fairly quickly. And actually, I've never done this personally. I've done it as a coach, but it'd be interesting to see you do the complexes, the bench, the press, the other stuff. Have a short break. You got to go to the gym, and then squat. I just wonder how that would manifest itself over the 6-week journey. But yeah, I think you need a squat rack. Sorry, but it gets me back to an important point. I don't like giving do this programs to people online, because all I ever get is pushback. This one guy online said my program is stupid because you should do leg presses in place of squats. I said no one. I was about to say said no one strong ever, but that's going to blow the comments up. I'm sure. There's going to be all these one-off people who did it, and usually fairly heavily supported by things that are illegal where I live. When I give a do this program, I expect you to do it. And that's why I'm always so vague on other programs, because, like with the armor building formula, for example, I have 35 kettlebells. I have lots of options to do my press workout. And some of you fine listeners have 1 kettlebell. There's your option. So it's really hard for me to dictate, do this with a kettlebell program if you don't have the equipment to do it. In your case, and I'm going to say this one last thing. I just thought of it, but I recommended you go to a gym, and then I thought to myself, what's a used squat rack cost? Or, is there a place that you can get an inexpensive squat rack? Or like we used to do when I was young, people used to build squat racks out of 2x4 wood. And I don't know how good they were. We had one at the Pacifica Barbell Club. We didn't use it. In fact, we should have, because we used those Death Trap York ones that had the little. That's what the thing you put the bar in was about that big. It was you stood. If you're by yourself, it could be dangerous. But yeah, on a do this program, I like you to do this. And the first time through, just for you, think about the 135 standards, okay? Thank you, Michael. I hope that helps. Consider buying a squat rack or putting one together, okay? And the nice thing I got to tell you, if it's a home gym and you do make it out of wood, it doesn't have to be adjustable. It's just for you. So it's going to save you some time and energy too. Thank you. Well, our next question comes from someone with an absolutely lovely name. Danielle asks, since you usually eat fermented foods 2 or more times a day, I was curious, what are my favorite recipes? One of my favorite recipes. Also, how do I manage variability, routine, and ease of preparation of such foods? Well, first off, Danielle, You'd be surprised if you don't know, but how many foods we consume are already fermented. Now, it's real obvious, beer, wine, booze, that's a fermented beverage. Yogurt, yeah, okay. And then, the stuff that my daughters drink is from, those little happy cans that are good for your gut by kombucha or something like that, kombucha. But coffee is a fermented food. And the interesting thing about coffee is a typical cup of coffee has 2 grams of soluble fiber in it. And that's what I read, was told. So, if you're like me and you drink 100 cups of coffee a day, that's a lot of fiber. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I probably only drink 50. Tea is fermented. Miso soup is fermented. Gosh, there's quite a bit of them. And of course, the foods I eat almost every day, sauerkraut and kimchi, are fermented. So for me, I would recommend for every listener that you start making your own sauerkraut. It's not difficult at all. Honestly, I usually do about 5 to 10. I use Napa cabbage, also sometimes known as white cabbage. You just chop them up. It doesn't have to be extremely fine, but you chop them up, and then you put it in a bowl, and this is the most important part, you use much less salt than you think. Then you get your hands in there with that 1 or 2 cabbages at a time, and you squeeze it. And that salt in your squeezing is surprising, the amount of water that comes out of cabbage. It shocks me every time I do it. It's like, because you wouldn't think of cabbage as being that liquid, but between the squeezing and the salt, it gets pulled out. You then put them in mason jars, and I use those nipples, pre-made nipples. They go like this, and you screw it down, and there's this little vent, and it allows that stuff to come out, and it also allows you to smell the process. So I always leave mine in this corner of my kitchen that doesn't really get a lot of stuff, and you can kind of walk by and just sniff and know that where you are in the fermenting process. I would say usually it takes about 7 days to make sauerkraut. That's a little longer, a little shorter maybe, but that's kind of it. Kimchi I buy. There's a Korean market just over here just off State Street. There's also a Chinese market down the way, and they also sell kimchi. But what I've noticed, if I buy the local kimchi made by the family who runs the market, it's much less salty. The thing that'll shock you about making your own sauerkraut is how little salt is in it. I mean, honestly, I can guarantee any fast food you eat has more salt than my sauerkraut. And we're talking the entire 5 to 10 jars I make. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I don't think so. So if you're going to make your own sauerkraut, the first couple of times you do it, just be as basic and simple as you can. It's a lot like baking bread. I like to bake bread. I find it fascinating. I have a bread maker, and you combine all this stuff together and you put it in there, and a couple hours later, the smell of fresh baked bread is all over the house. Just a small thing here, Danielle, but I have beehives right behind me, so I have my own honey. I make my own sauerkraut, and I make my own bread. And I just find, now this isn't Little House on the Prairie or anything, but I think it's good for me to make some of my own meals, some of my own foods. It certainly gets you much closer to the process of what food, not just the eating of food, but the whole process of making a meal, literally from each one of those my little honeybees that works. I think they live for 40 days, and they work so hard to provide me this honey. The bread, you take all these different ingredients, and all of a sudden it turns into this delicious thing. It's just a good thing I think it's a good thing for the area between my ears. As for variety, for me, it's kimchi from the Korean market, and it's my own homemade sauerkraut. There's not a lot of variety. I could certainly do more. I've made my own yogurt, and I've made my own, I think it's called kefir. But honestly, for me, it's cheaper just to go to the store and get it. And for my results, far better to get it from the store. So I hope that helps. I eat a lot of fermented foods. Of course, coffee. I drink coffee all morning. I drink tea. I have yogurt almost every day now as part of my breakfast. My breakfast, well, it was eggs, usually kimchi, usually yogurt with, I make this instant oats with it. I make a protein shake with 4 or 5 different berries that I get in these frozen bags. And that's what I try to do. I try to get a lot of variety in every one of my meals. I try to really push the protein and the veggies and the berry family of fruits. So hope that helped. And yeah, just get going on it and you'll really enjoy it. And there's wonderful resources online. I did take a course. Sadly, it was right at the start of COVID. But I did take a course on fermenting and I really got a lot out of it. So if you can find a local class on fermenting, I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun to do it. So enjoy and thank you. Well, we got a question from Travis, and I like this question because first off, he gives me a ton of information. He's 42, 6'4", 248. He's got a 42.5-inch waist. He's been training with kettlebells for years, but very seriously the last 2. He's been doing the armor building formula with double 24s, good solid weight, and he's currently in week 5. This is following a completed cycle of the rite of passage with the single 24. Good job. He's eating a high protein diet with a slight caloric deficit, and he's walking 1.5 miles a day to lose some body fat. First off, hey, good for you. I think that's a good program. You know, I'm certainly no nutritionist, but the good nutritionists I know, if you're trying to lose body fat, protein and walking are your friends, okay? So good job. Today was the Wednesday hard workout where I was aiming for 20 to 25 rounds of the ABC Armor Building Complex. I hit 15 on Wednesday of week 3. Unfortunately, I only got 17 today before I was too gassed to continue with safe form. I want everyone to stop for a second and share with me my amazement, first off with his honesty and his candor. Yeah, not every day is going to be the world record. There's going to be days where the plan isn't going to work as planned. That's called life in my case. Now, but there's reasons for this, and we continue on. But my conditioning certainly betrayed me. I had 2 really bad nights of sleep before this, and that's where the bells go off for me. You know, on the nutrition side, we always say you can't outrun a bagel, you can't outrun a donut, you can't outrun desserts, you can't a buffet line, whatever. But you also can't out-train crappy sleep. So let's first off give yourself some grace and say, okay, 2 bad nights sleep, but you still showed up and got the workout in. So that's good for you. He's just not sure if he can get the goal of 30 in week 7. My question, if I feel gassed when I'm going for 30, can I take more rest than I can instead of doing every minute on the minute? Absolutely true. The last question is important. He says this right towards the end. The book says to try to finish in 30 minutes if possible. That author is brilliant because he added if possible. But at what point would I be sacrificing too much density for the sake of volume? All right, boom. For those who don't understand density, density is what track is all about. Not the field part, but the track. It's called the 400 meters. If you get to the 390 meter line first, you stop and you eat a sandwich and you have a glass of milk and play a game of chess, you lose because all the other competitors are going to go past you to the 400 meter line. Track's easy. If you go out to the track today and run 75 seconds in a 400 meters, okay. You train for a while and you get down to 68, okay, that's better. You train for a lot longer and you get down to 63, good for you. You get into the 50s next year, nicely done. You keep at it, you take it serious. The 400 meters never changes, but the more serious you take it, the harder you work, you do the same amount of work in less time. And when you get down to 47 seconds, Some universities will look at you when you get down to 46. That's even better when you get down to 44 and 43. Then we're talking about maybe this is what you should do for a living. When it comes to what we do in our world, I don't ever want you to sacrifice density for getting the work done the first time. So let's say it takes you 45 minutes, 50 minutes to get through those 30 rounds. That's great because, Travis, you get to do this again if you'd like. Maybe the first time it takes you to get the 30 rounds, 50 minutes. And then you try it again and you do some conditioning, you come back, you do some smart stuff. Oh yeah, and you get back in there and you do the workout in 35 minutes. And then one day down the line, you do some smart stuff, boom, you go 30 for 30. Good for you. Density is, I think, what the kettlebell is best at. I think density training, if you're to ask me what the best thing about kettlebell training, I would say density work. Getting, we have that test for the RKC, 100 reps with the 24 in 5 minutes. Well, that's density 101. It's not 99 in 5 minutes and 5 seconds. It's 105. Now, obviously, when I train people, I'm thinking of mostly Lacey, hats off to you. When she was prepping for the snatch test, she was finishing under 4 minutes. That's flying. Now, if she decided to go heavier, it would have taken longer. And say like we decide, okay, let's see how many you can do with the 20, Lacey. And it took her, to get 100 reps, 6 minutes. Well, pretty soon it'll be 5 minutes. Pretty soon it'll be, you'll just chase those numbers. It's wonderful. The kettlebell is wonderful for density. Having said that, don't let density get in your way at first, Travis. I think you're doing fine. I like really what you're doing here with your combination of caloric restriction and the rite of passage, the high protein diet. I think you're all on the right track. Let's just get through it. And then after a 2-week break, I recommend probably the perfect workout. It's on the YouTube channel for 2 weeks maybe. Come back and do the ABC again and just see how it goes. And then floating out there with the big asterisk is those nights of sleep. You just can't overcome bad nights of sleep and perform at a high level. We can make you, but long term, it's not a good idea. Okay? Thank you and good luck. We got a couple questions from Per. The first one is this. What, if anything, would you recommend doing on the days between workouts in the ABC formula? How much exercise on off days would you say is acceptable without disrupting the hypertrophy and recovery needed? I'm coming out with a supplement to the ABF. And one of the things, I personally think while you're doing the ABF, you should do it as written. Between our Monday and Wednesday workout, we do either a ruck, a heavy hands, or a long walk, but you can also do swim, you could ride a bike, but just, long and easy and enjoyable, get a good conversation about good movies or the local teams or whatever you want. And so that you get, you make 2-mile walk, 3-mile walk, a 4-mile walk, just kind of breeze past you. I would suggest that between, that's what we do on Tuesday. So that's what we do, okay. Thursdays, we do a 1-hour original strength mobility workout. And that's what I think are the two best things to do. On the other 2 days a week, get your laundry done, do your housework, go shopping, basically take care of business and don't overthink it. On certain forums online, people are talking about doing all these snatches and doing all these Turkish get-ups and all this extra work and volume. But I'll notice a few weeks later, that same person asking about doing all this extra stuff is also complaining about they can't get their presses in. So the phrase I always use is how many rabbits are you chasing? Do the ABF, give it its 8 weeks. If you like it, great. High fives to everybody. If you loathe it, great. Don't do it again, okay? But I would say walk mobility, swim mobility, whatever it is, Mobility, 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 walk, walk, walk. Those are the answers. Okay, but there's a follow-up issue kind of question that you put here. He says a PT. Now, it's hard because I don't know if that's a personal trainer or a physical therapist, but it doesn't matter either way. Once told me that any activity between training days would interfere with hypertrophy. For example, I bike to work 30 minutes each way daily. That, by the way, is very impressive. And would like to practice my snatch technique on off days using lighter weight. I've heard you suggest 30 seconds of hanging and some mobility work in previous podcasts. But generally speaking, how much is too much when it comes to maintaining recovery? So over here I got Tommy Kona's great book on Olympic lifting. He makes his point that it's just so good. So you got to test, he basically considers, your energy levels like a test tube, okay? So here's a test tube, and you work out, you start with it completely full, and it drains out this capacity. If you give it 2 days of rest, it refills back up to the top, and then when you work out, it drains out. You give it a day or two of rest, it fills back up. I like that. It's a simple way, I think, to explain recovery, and I think it's true. Now, if you decide to do the armor building complex for 30 minutes on Monday, and then you come in and you do 300 snatches on Tuesday, when you get to train on your high presses on Wednesday, do you have the tank? Is your tank full enough to do 100 presses with each hand? That's the question I have. So the issue, and that's why, so many of my older books on bodybuilding and basically hypertrophy books, they were very much into, you can only train 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday was almost a religion to a lot of people I knew growing up for their bodybuilding days. Now, with the advent of drugs, the rules change. But for those of us who don't, the rules haven't changed. You just trying to train 5-6 days a week. And it's interesting because, when people say, well, this is how Mr. Olympia trained. Yeah, I know, but look at Arnold's book. He recommends 6 months of calisthenics and then that 3-day-a-week program. And then, of course, he also recommended to many bodybuilders what he called the Big Six. And these are 3-day-a-week programs, and they work. 3 days a week, if you work, is a lot of work. Okay? Adding those extra days are fine unless they take away from the hard days. And I can't tell you how you're going to know if that's happening to you. I know personally how I do. Basically, I just ask people who know me how I'm doing. If they're all cuddled in a corner of the room saying, you're fine, that means I'm probably not. It means I'm probably overtrained. I'm hangry and I'm irritable, and I need days off to recover. All right. Final question. Repeatability of the ABC formula. How repeatable is the ABF? And how often should one switch programs? Currently, I'm inclined to stick with it year-round as it covers your needs perfectly. Okay, I think after 8 weeks, and I mentioned this early in the podcast, I think you should slide over to something like, I got that perfect workout here on YouTube, half kneeling presses, hang, goblet squat to overhead squat, hip thrusts or swings, suitcase carries. Okay, very simple. It's great for the exercises have mobility built in, they have strength built in, they have hypertrophy built in. Nice, simple program. Do some basic kind of generalish program 3 days a week for about 2 weeks after the ABF. Get yourself kind of mindful again about what I'm asking you to do on the ABF, and then jump back in. So 8 weeks of ABF, 2 weeks of perfect workout, 8 weeks of ABF. After that second round of ABF, where you might have increased your load, or you might have sped things up, or you might be using uneven kettlebells, or all kinds of things, it might be an idea to move to something else. Frankly, a nice 4-week thing, because you haven't been doing them, it would be the 10,000 swing challenge, 500 swings a day for 20 days. That's fun. I think after the ABF, take a week or two off. I know I say that in the book, but the perfect workout is okay. And then just get back in there. All right. good questions, and that was fun. When I say ABF, folks, armor building formula, okay? And the ABC is the armor building complex, which is 2 double kettlebell cleans, 1 double kettlebell press, and then 2 double kettlebell front squats, all in back to back to back. Put the weight down and go. I go, you go. All right. Thank you. Good questions. We got a question from Tony, and it's kind of inspiring. I'm 64 years old and just retired about a year ago. I've been playing touch football on Sundays, September through April, for over 40 years now with my friends from high school. I gotta tell you, that's pretty impressive. As we get older, some of them have dropped out, and now we include sons and son-in-laws in our games. I often find myself either chasing or being chased by someone who's decades younger. This is awesome. The game is simple. Speed, agility, change of directions, and balance are all important. Can you recommend any training ideas for an older person to develop more speed and agility? I lost a few pounds, good job, in the last year, and it definitely helps, no question about that. But I'm thinking more about a routine specifically aimed at the legs and maybe the core. Well, yeah, I'm going to give you some ideas, but honestly, just a standard program in the weight room is going to be fine. A push, a pull, a hinge, a squat, and a loaded carry. There's your whole fancy program. But for the core, I would like you to think about suitcase carries. That's the single arm farmer walk. Go heavy. That will allow you to practice staying tall while fighting a load. But I think your friend, now, if you don't have hills in your neighborhood, move. No, okay, whatever you got. I guess you could do this stuff with sleds, but hills are just so much easier. If you can find a grassy hill, a couple things. First off, I've never had an athlete ever get hurt running up a hill. Never, which is great. No pulled hamstrings, no falls, no dumb stuff, nothing. So hill sprints are very good for you. It's going to keep you're going to be getting the sprinting action in, but you don't really have to worry about popping a hammy or anything like that. Now, certainly anything can happen, but generally not. Once you do some hill sprints, I want you to start thinking about some other movements up the hill. The most natural thing of all is to go backwards and backpedal up the hill. You will discover how your knees work and the muscles around your knee very quickly. And I'm a big fan of sprinting backwards up hills. Okay, so hill sprints, backward hill sprints. From there, I'd like you to even think about some lateral work. You can do side shuffles up the hill, both directions, so you go both ways. You could do karaoke, if you still remember that. We called it karaoke, it's that hip swivel drill. Running up a hill is gonna, you're not gonna get the jarring hit from running on flat, and it's gonna be a really interesting way for you to chase the whole system. I was about to say muscles, but the whole system of changing directions. And then finally, an idea I had, I want you to backpedal up, brake and drive. That's a defensive back work, the footwork. Backpedal, brake and drive. Backpedal, brake and drive. Backpedal, brake and drive. And a final idea, and I think this one actually would be kind of a good idea, is run pass patterns up a hill and have someone throw you the ball. So that you're. Now, when I think of hills, I've had hills. Judge Memorial had a hill like this. Actually, South City High, where I went to school, we had a great hill that was almost just like that. It was great for, it was like going up, it was a flight of stairs, but it was a hill. Now, obviously, you can do this on the bleachers. They're not as safe. You can do it on stadium steps, not as safe. Hills are just a lot more forgiving. You don't fall through hills where you can on bleachers. But that's what I think. If you overdo a hill workout, you're going to be tired, but you won't be broken. Okay. So that was my thought for you. And at 64, the load is the hill, and the load is going to be, you changing ideas as you go up and down. I hope that helped. Certainly, if you go online, there's all these cone drills and things like that. But personally, I worry about you doing those kinds of drills at 64, and as we always say, the drill is not the skill. And you're gonna have to learn a whole bunch of things just to do these drills, or you can just have some fun running up and down. If you're near a beach, Tony, running past patterns on a beach and playing beach football is illuminating, especially if you're in the deep sand, because literally if you're playing touch football, I can be from my nose to the tip of my hand running as fast as I physically can and not get the person who's at the tip of my hand, because you just, for every step you take, on the deep sand, your feet just go nowhere. And it's really a great conditioner and hilarious at the same time. Hey, good luck. That's awesome. Okay, thank you. Jeremiah's question is good, but I just want to make sure that you listen to my answer and not just rabbit hole down what the internet says. Jeremiah says this: I've heard that increasing your bench press will increase your overhead press. Jeremiah, I've never heard that. I've heard the opposite is true. Your overhead press going up improves your bench press, but I've never. Yeah, but you might, pressing is pressing. Most of the guys I know who are really good in the bench really aren't very good in the military, but it's specificity, and that's what happens in our world. He asks the follow-up, and he goes, does this apply for improving your deadlift by squatting heavier? Meaning, do you need to improve your back squat for a better PR? Now, he mentions he's been squatting since middle school. He got his lifetime best, and he's very comfortable with his best squat. But now he's wondering, to increase his deadlift, do I have to keep squatting? So one of the first things I really took away from the RKC was this following phrase: maintain your squat, increase your hinge. Maintain your squat, increase your hinge. I got a massive squat, at least on record I do, and it's really impressive, and yay for me. It didn't help me as an athlete at all. But anytime my snatch goes up, my clean goes up, my deadlift goes up, good things happen out on the field of play. So I'm with you. Maintain the squat, increase the hinge. You mentioned a few exercises here, and I like them. So one thing, folks, he asks about is doing Zercher squats, a good idea. Now, whenever I talk about the Zercher squat, I get a lot of comments because all the people in the world who like Zercher squats comment on it. So all three of them do. Okay, it's a joke, but it's pretty true. For those who don't know what a Zercher is, it's a squat where you put the barbell into the crux of your elbows, the elbow pits. You put a towel and you squat. Same exercise, but a little bit easier, is the double kettlebell front squat, which Jeremiah mentions, and thank you for mentioning that. I think that weird anaconda strength, that you're fighting with all that internal inner tube pressure to fight that load in the Zercher and the double kettlebell front squat, I think is so valuable for increasing your deadlift. Now, one of the things you didn't mention that really made a difference in improving my deadlift, not my lifetime best deadlift, but my start and my clean off the floor, was when Mike Rosenberg gave me a thick bar. I had broken my wrist and I was trying to rehab it. But the thick bar is probably about this thick around, about the size of a coffee mug. And to hold on to it, you need to have a C grip like this. So thick bar deadlifts, I was shocked. And then when I used them with the high school athletes, it reinforces form better than me yelling at them, because you can't jerk a thick bar deadlift off the ground. You can't, shoot your hips to the ceiling and, do that weird yank kind of deadlift. You have to grip it, and just everything has to be locked and loaded. I didn't have them at the time, but they now have these little grippy things you can buy to turn a standard barbell into a thick bar. That might be a lot cheaper investment for you. I was at Mike Krifka's gym. He's in, I think it's called CrossFit Concepts. Help me out, Mike, at the bottom. And he's just outside of Washington, D.C., and he's got all these weird pull-up things in his gym. And if you ever do a thick bar pull-up or just a hang, it is illuminating. And I'm even guessing that maybe the cure to a lot of people's elbow MAPS, middle-aged pull-up syndrome, might be thick bar pull-ups, because it radically changes the whole exercise. But thick bar deadlifts, even if you get the grips, or if you get the thick bar, double kettlebell front squats as your choice. Maintain the squat. So, warm up every workout with some goblet squats. When you're doing the double kettlebell front squats, take them serious. Really feel the pressure building up. Try the thick bar deadlift idea. But I know this, at least in the world I'm in. Now, I'm not a power lifter, but heavy squats don't always lead to superior performance on the athletic field. But getting those hinges up, either through the kettlebell swing, the kettlebell snatch, the Olympic lifts, the snatch and the clean, the deadlift, almost universally in my career, they've made a difference out there. My friend Pavel, in his book, Power to the People, really makes a strong argument for the importance of the deadlift over the squat. And I'm not afraid to squat. When I was with Dick Notmeyer, I squatted all the time, front squatted every day. I back squatted a lot of weight for a lot of reps, but I personally got very little from all that. So I think you might be in the same place I am. So maintain the squat, increase the hinge family, okay? Fun question. Thank you, Jeremiah. Well, listen, hey, that's our podcast this time, okay? Episode 277 is in the books. Remember, if you have questions, and this is a question and answer podcast, send them to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. Each and every week, I sit down here and I answer your questions. And until next week, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.